All right, welcome back to the Four Elements Press LGBTQ Authors Series. Today we are talking with Tayler Simon. She's here as a queer author and bookstore owner and writing coach, self-publishing writing coach. So we're going to learn a lot from her today. And Taylor, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us about your work. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Alexander. My name is Taylor. I am based out of Columbia, South Carolina, so here in the South. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of issues going on here in South Carolina. I just kind of made it my focus of the work that I do being through something I love. So I always joke with people that my life has become all about books. So I have a social work background. I'm a licensed master social worker. And just doing that work, I used to work with survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence. And doing that work, I just really saw the power of how storytelling brings communities together, but also like changes the way we talk about that specifically issues around sexual assault and domestic violence and how to support survivors. And so that kind of inspired me to start a book blog called Liberation is Lit. So talking about how the stories I was reading was really inspiring me to do be actionable in my communities and make change, and how the stories were getting me proximate to different issues that, yes, my own lived experiences, but also the lived experiences of people that have such different lives than me. And so I was kind of getting burnt out from the work of doing violence prevention, less so working with the survivors, more so working within systems. And so I decided to take my passion and make it into a bookstore. So Liberation is Lit started Juneteenth 2023, and it's a pop-up and online bookstore. And so we prioritize selling books by Black, Indigenous, other people of color, LGBTQ plus, and disabled writers. And as I started, the terrible landscape around book censorship and book banning was happening in South Carolina. So I incorporated that as well. And the bookstore became my activism work. I do a lot of testimonies in state school board meetings at the state house. Um, and I've just made a lot of connections and built a lot of coalitions with other groups that are doing things in my community, and just how this work overlaps with the stories we tell is so important. So, books just became the vehicle in which I do a lot of social change. And I'm also a writer.
Yeah.
I've self-published three poetry collections and a guide to self-publishing. Alexander and I were talking a little bit before the recording about how writing our truth, a guide for self-publishing for BIPOC writers, was kind of my way of how to use self-publishing and writing your story as a tool to combat the one very racist, ableist, heterosexist, transphobic institution that is traditional publishing, especially with the big five. Our stories aren't seen as marketable. So we're often kept out of the conversation. And so self-publishing as a way to empower ourselves through our stories, but also shape narrative through the stories we tell as well.
Yeah, thank you for that big introduction because you are doing a lot, and what you are doing in all different parts of being a writer, because that's what you are. um, it shows that the connection with the community is the start and the end. And that is really the message of that of this of this series, but also of Four Elements Press in general, because being a writer is about connection. And in the 21st century, at the point we are at now, when not only like historically discriminated against, writers are being discriminated against, but people are being discriminated against just because of their beliefs in the idea that America specifically is a place for everyone, which is like the founding principles of the nation. So it's in terms of self-publishing too. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about your journey in getting to self-publishing, and then maybe m more of your reasons about why, and maybe some of the stories that you heard, because we've spoken a little bit about how um, there's discrimination at the at the entry level, so at the submission level, then at the editorial level, then at the marketing level, then at the bookstore level. So please enlighten us a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, so my self-publishing journey actually kind of grew side by side with my bookstore journey. So I was in a thrift store one day and I was like just checking out books to like curate for the collection. And this woman stopped me and she was like, "Do you like this outfit?" I was like, "Yes, it looks like you're going to a Beyonce concert." And we got to talking. She was like, "Wow, you're getting a lot of books. You must be a writer." And I was like, "Yes." And so she was like, "I've always wanted to write a book, but I have no idea how." And this woman is like in her 70s. And she was like, "I know we literally just met, but would you help me like self-publish my book?" And I was like, "Sure." And to do that, I was like, well, I guess I've got to like self-publish myself to learn how this thing works. So I've been writing poetry forever, from like my terrible angsty poetry I wrote as a teenager. And then I really got back into it in 2020 during the onset of the COVID pandemic. And I was kind of just like looking through old journals, looking through all of the poems I wrote, and it was just really inspiring to see my journey of just hiding behind perfection and thinking my feelings were a burden to other people to really leaning into vulnerability. It was one of the reasons why I quit my job to start the bookstore in the first place. So I published that into my first poetry collection called Phases. And I learned a lot during that first time, and I did a lot of research to self publish my collection, but also to help my friend published her book. And so I just learned a lot about the process and how Amazon self-publishing can really hold self-published writers back. I already had a disdain for Amazon just because like they started and got big because they wanted to kill bookstores. So I already had beef with Amazon. And they have such a chokehold on the market when it comes to ebooks and self-publishing. So I was trying to figure out different alternatives, and I found different alternatives and just a way to felt just very empowered, like doing this process myself and learning and championing my own book. And not and I think part of it came from fear too of rejection. Because after that first self-published collection, I was like, well, I could just do everything myself all the time. So that's kind of how I fell in love with self-publishing. It's definitely a lot of work, and I also just find a lot of joy because I like the whole creation is like me. Aside from editing, I do my own book covers, I do my own formatting. So it's just been a very like empowering artistic experience for me too, to bridge, because I am like dabbling a little bit in like visual art more and design. So that's just all of self-publishing has felt very empowering for me to just like tell my story in different modalities and styles as well.
Yeah, I love how you bring in, because designing a cover and formatting and being an author is like so many hats. Um, you're incredible for being able to do all that. And then it's even more incredible that you were able to design like the cover for Black Madonna. What? It is so professional. It's like one of the best covers I've seen on a book like in a decade. Like how so I like how you talk about how you bring in your artistic visual arts also into the production of the book. Um, how does the visual art transition to the poetry? Specifically for Black Madonna, because I was just really taken by that cover.
Yeah, so I decided to call the collection Black Madonna. So Black Madonna is my latest poetry collection, and it's like all of the liberation poems that I've been writing lately, especially um, so I did this kind of like People's History of South Carolina course through the South Carolina Progressive Network called the Majeska Simpkins School. And instead of like doodling in class like a lot of people do, I like write poems about my experience. And it's so funny when I told the instructor that that's what I like, I wrote most of these poems during the class. He was like, I saw you scribbling things. I thought you were just taking like really thorough notes. I was like, I was taking notes too, but I was also writing poetry. And so I decided to call the liberation poems Black Madonna because I read this book called The Black Utopians. And it's basically different movements within history of like Black people trying to essentially create their own utopians when the government was actively trying to kill them. And one of the groups was called the Church of the Black Madonna. And they were very similar to the Black Panthers in that they were feeding the community, they were providing refuge, clinic services, and things like that. And I was like, well, that's the next title of my book, Black Madonna. And so when I was putting together the cover, I was like, okay, what I love collage. It's like one of my favorite visual art mediums. And when I was putting together the collage, I was like, okay, what gives like what images show to me the holiness of like Black women, especially like you might have heard like people say God is a Black woman. And so of course, in like a lot of my collages, I play around with like the halo effect. So that's on the cover. And then I wanted a striking Black woman with like an afro. Um, as like kind of like that crown and also that halo effect. And then I added some peace lilies because I feel like at every Black funeral, there's like peace lilies given. And I still have the ones for my grandmother's funeral. She died like 10 years ago. So that kind of just like represented like holiness and grief, but also beauty. And so, yeah, that is a little bit behind the cover and like the message behind the book. There's a lot of like Black joy imagery in there. And one of the poems is based off of the song Pyramids by Frank Ocean. And so just thinking about all of these images and feelings when putting together the cover, it was just another form of expression for me.
Yeah, well, congratulations, because it came out incredibly. And
Thank you.
and that goes to speak to the power that the author has just in self-publishing in general. Because you have the ability to either create the cover that you want for your work, you can hire the person that you want who can affect your vision, and then you don't have the publisher there to say, well, we're gonna not use that. We're gonna use something else. Uh, have you approached publishers with your poems? And then I have a second question to that because I don't want to forget it. Um, you mentioned alternatives to Amazon publishing for self-publishing for ebooks and print copies. I'd love for you to elaborate just on how you get your print copies and stuff.
Yeah, so I haven't approached with a full collection yet, but like I said before, I think a lot of my like yes, it's a very empowering experience to be self-published, but I think I hide behind it a little bit of fear of rejection. So I have been challenging myself to submit my poetry and my short stories to different places more. So I have been like published a couple of like free places. But I am again trying to like challenge myself to submit more. Um, And I have no issues with publishers that are aligned, like the work you all are doing. Roadhouse Publishers is like one of my favorite publishing companies. There are a lot of like small indie presses that are really mission aligned versus like thinking about how to make money off of the books because people in the big five world, at least, they just want to find marketability and what sells. So that has been just really empowering for me, but also like trying to not to hide behind it too much. And as far as the alternatives I have found, Ingram Spark is really, really good. You can customize everything. I do not use Ingram Spark because I always get error messages and don't know quite how to work it. But it's kind of like one of those things where it can be a little intimidating because there's so many customizations that you can do. And a lot of hybrid presses actually use Ingram Spark to publish books and get the books printed. They do hard copy and paperback, which is different. And it connects to Ingram, where bookstores can order your books wholesale, and that is really appealing to bookstore owners. I do work with indie authors that sell their books on Amazon, but I work with authors on consignment, so they're the ones giving me the books versus me ordering them wholesale, and then I pay them after the sale. But I use Draft to Digital, which there's a lot of templates and stuff for well, I tend to format my books and then do the custom formatting option, but if you aren't as good at formatting, you can use their templates for formatting your book. And they also connect to Ingram, where bookstores can order your books. They also connect to Amazon, so you can still sell your books on Amazon, but it's not exclusively through Amazon. I'm on BarnesandNoble.com, Bookshop.org, which is like my favorite Amazon alternative for buying books because you can support local bookstores. You can get on there, so it's just a lot more options versus that exclusivity. A lot of indie authors, self-published authors are like, well, Amazon royalty rates are better, so I don't want to switch. And I'm like, okay, yes, a lot of the ebook, they do have a chokehold on the ebook market with Kindle, but there's still alternatives. And if you're just very intentional about where you are directing people to buy your book, they'll buy your book where you tell them to. So,
Yeah. Well, because we've been looking at Draft to Digital a lot, and it's something that we haven't dived deep into on this series yet. Does Draft to Digital, it's great to know that they have the formatting tools because that is like a lifesaver. It's going to be a lifesaver for a lot of people watching. And do they do ebook as well?
yes, they do ebook, print book, and audiobook.
Ooh, audio. Okay. Have you
Hmm.
experience with the audiobooks yet?
I have not because yes, I have a podcast, but I want to make sure I can pay someone to really do good like audio engineering. And I know a poetry collection would be easy to do an audiobook for, but I want it to be kind of different. So I haven't dabbled in audiobook production yet.
Yeah, and I haven't also, because it is a whole nother project. But maybe we'll have to connect on when we do it. Maybe we could do it at the same time, so when we run into issues.
Yes, we can learn together.
Yeah. All right. So I love that. So Draft to Digital definitely looks like a really good option because it connects to Amazon, it connects to Ingram Sparks. Those are the two main buying places um, that just the casual purchaser of books is buying from. And then we have bookshop.org, which we also have a store too. But I wanted to see, do you see opportunity for a physical bookstore down in South Carolina? Like, is that still feasible in 2025?
Um, I am hoping one day because there's my friend Mel who owns Steamy Lit bookstore down in Florida. She's opened her third location, and I'm just like, if she could do it, I can do it. But I have seen like it's really hard to maintain a commercial storefront and afford it. So right now, my energy is focused on how can I continue to meet the community where they are. So like when I say I pop up everywhere, I pop up everywhere. Like there's a huge market where like hundreds of people come out every single Saturday. I go there twice a month. I'll be at a mutual aid fair this Saturday. I've been at an art gallery. Or multiple art galleries. I've been at multiple breweries. I've been at the library. So I am literally everywhere. And I'm hoping to do two things. Have like satellite bookshelves in different places where community already gathers. Like I'm working with a queer woman owned coffee shop here in Columbia they have a banned book club. So getting a banned bookshelf in their coffee shop. And then working with other local coffee shops to see if I can get like a shelf in there for people. And then the second thing I'm working on is hopefully in the next year or two having a mobile unit to drive around. Um, I'm very close to the rural it's not suburban, but it's like a rural suburb of Columbia called Hopkins, and it's predominantly Black, although it's rapidly gentrifying. um, but just hoping to like just get a mobile unit and pull up at the parks down there and like have people like come and visit and buy books. And I also do a lot of book giveaways. So I'll donate books to different organizations like my friend and local author Ryan Jenkins. She has an all Black author book giveaway. I donate books to her. I've donated books to other mutual aid events. So I'm just trying to find different ways to meet the community where they are to get books to them rather than everybody always having to come to me to find the books.
Yeah, it I think that strategy is probably one of the best these days, considering how little time people have, and then like them running their errands is like literally their luxury time in a lot
Mhm.
of cases. So I totally get that. And unless they have that exposure where they are, they might not be getting it because not everyone's going to the library in 2025. Not everyone's going to the bookstore if they can find one. They're going to places to get coffee, haircut, stuff like that. So I too have been thinking kind of in that way, like, um, where are people, first of all? Because that's kind of a symptom of the suburbs, I guess, too. Like we're all so spread out and like it's hard to it's hard to be that community center, but in a lot of places, like churches are and like those markets are the places where people connect. And
Mhm.
that's interesting. So how long have you been doing the big market that you go to regularly?
I started August 2023. Um, and they are apparently really hard to get into, but they like to have like different kinds of stuff. Like there's so many like clothes upcyclers, there's so many candle makers and soap makers and things like that. So I guess I got in because nobody's really selling books.
That's great. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
And
very,
it just got voted, so it's called Soda City Market, and it just got voted the number one market in the country. So very fortunate to have access to that, like 15 minutes away from my house.
yeah. And then at the table, I'm sure you're selling your poetry too. Have you gotten any feedback from individuals that connect with your poetry and really are following you as an author?
Oh yes. I do most of my book sales like in person when I'm doing these markets. I do a couple of things just as an author to sell my books, but majority of my book sales, and I try not to be like when people ask, "What's your favorite book on the table?" I try not to say mine and like give a fair chance to everything, and only when they like pick up the book then I'm like, and that's one of the books I wrote. And um like you said about the cover of Black Madonna and my first book Phases, that one also gets a lot of interest as well. So I'm just like, oh yeah, by the way, that's me. And everybody's like, you should have led with that. And I'm like, I know, but I'm like trying not to be biased.
Yeah, maybe a sign like meet the author you could have with your picture on it just,
Yeah. Yeah.
just so they know.
Right. Like, I don't know. It's just that introvert writing feeling of like, I just want people to look at my words, not necessarily me.
I know. But what, and maybe you could speak to this experience, but once they know like you are the author, their whole attitude changes, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, definitely. And like I sometimes feel like if my books weren't there, a lot of people wouldn't buy. Not a lot of people, but there's people who are just like, "Oh, this is really cool. You're selling books." And then they'll pick up my book. I say it's mine. And I can tell when somebody's planning to buy something when somebody's not. And usually they buy when they know that like the bookstore owner is the author. So I definitely should lean into that, but I am humble to a fault sometimes.
Well, it's well, a lot of times we write because we do want to kind of like take the step back. But part of, what we kind of always go back to, well, maybe we don't always go back to, maybe it just always naturally leads to this, is that readers want to connect with you today.
Mhm.
They want to like follow you, they want to know what you're doing, take your advice. And especially in poetry, writing such raw um like emotion, and it's so easy for people to connect to. They're going to feel a lot closer they're going to feel like you're closer to them than maybe some of their friends. So, to be open in your writing, but to also then be open in the marketing is a strategy for that connection that is really going to like have a reader follow you throughout your whole career. I know that's true for some of my favorites. Do you have any writers that inspired you or that you kind of maybe follow in their style or footsteps?
I think because back in 2020, when I started writing poetry again, Rupi Kaur, I think that's how you say her name. She started doing like Instagram live writing workshops. And
Oh,
so like, like her style is very like short and like just a punch in the gut of feeling with like so few words. And I think that's kind of like my style. And I write similar things to her, but of course, like we're different people, so it's different. But she's definitely one whose style that I've kind of been following. And I just love like sometimes, well, for the longest time I had imposter syndrome about like I don't have an MFA, like I don't know how to write a sonnet, like am I really a poet? And I most of my poems are free verse. And so like I'm just like, is that really poetry though? But I get such good feedback, and not to say that external validation is like the only thing you should be seeking, but it kind of made me feel more grounded in my work to know that like free verse is definitely like a legit style of poetry, and the poem like the whole purpose of the poem is to make you feel. One of my favorite reactions to somebody reading one of my books, my second poetry collection, Love and Other Forms of Heartbreak. They were just like casually flipping through. And then it was like two sisters. And then the one sister called the other sister to read the poem, and they both just started crying. And I'm just like, oh, poetry read. But it was one of my poems about grief, and their mom had just passed away. And they were just like, this is exactly what we've been feeling, but we haven't been able to put it into words. So thank you. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like thank you for like this is like the ultimate compliment for like me as a poet of like how you can see the vulnerable parts of me and connect it to yourself. And that was just such a magical moment for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. That's
Mm.
beautiful. So in real time, like it's almost it had to feel surreal almost like like almost like a dream because I mean no one can do that. Only
Mm,
words can do that, you know? Like and even
mhm,
when I was writing my novel, I was throughout kind of like placing these little things that I couldn't explain to my friends who were like struggling with different things. And like I couldn't put it into conversation. I couldn't really like give it the impact that I needed it to give. But through the writing, like I was. So after I finished it, I sent it to a couple of my friends who I was writing to in a way. And their feedback was everything that I wanted to get across to them. And it like had that impact. So there are like ways that words and like the art of reading too, because there's
mhm,
art of reading, and when you can, as a writer, kind of like settle into that and settle into the words and sentences and read them as a reader, you can really take a step back and look at the word choices to condense, to make them really effective. And to just know that you're so conscious and economical with what you put into your work and then how it can have that impact is magic. And that shows that you have something really worth selling. And people are gonna it is changing people's like hearts, minds, and what are your kind of goals for your future and maybe specifically as a writer? Because I'm really interested because your success is there.
yeah, so I think it's like what every kind of aspiring like author wants is like, can I just pay my bills with book sales? That would be amazing. Um, but I really just want my books to be able to connect me to community. So it's less about like selling a ton of copies, but like how can I really like make impact? And even if it's not like somebody in California, but like I'll just give an example of how I've figured out like my books could open like doors that I never would think would open. So with my first book, I really debated on whether or not I should post or publish it under my real name or a pseudonym, and mostly because I didn't want my family to read it and like be like, oh, what's wrong with her? I thought she was like perfect or whatever,
Oh,
which was the point of the book. And my dad, who my parents divorced when I was two, and me and my dad, we don't have a strained relationship, but we have communication issues. I don't talk like this to my dad. I'm very quiet and reserved around my dad. And he read my book, and that was the first time like we actually had like a deep heart-to-heart conversation and like talking about like his our relationship of us growing up. I was like one of the big hurricane drinks in, and he was two crowns and cokes in at his birthday dinner. And then all of a sudden, he was like, "I read your poetry book. Did I not tell you I loved you enough as a child?" And I was just like, I was not expecting this conversation, but that was like the first conversation that we had to like really improve our relationship, and that was just like the first time I really thought this like this is what I want through my books is like, how can I just have unexpected connections with people, whether it's my dad or whether it's with a stranger? Like, how can like I just use my books as a way to be vulnerable?
yeah. Yeah, I have spoken with a number of authors, and a commonality, and even with myself, is that, these books and our writings kind of also act as a almost like support or guide for us as we're kind of going through these things and these changes in our lives. And well, in the LGBTQ experience, a lot with coming out is a big one. But but even just in like thinking about your childhood or your past, and then like how that kind of reflects on your life now. I don't know if it's a writer thing, but sometimes people don't automatically like think about these things on their own. They're living in their days. They're not living in their past. Authors a lot of times are living in the past, but sometimes we're living in the future too. But yeah, that connection, that authenticity. So using books and using literature for that, but also then to open up that conversation in your everyday life. Because your dad maybe could have read the book and not said anything. But because you showed yourself so vulnerably, so authentically, that allowed for the connection. And I think that in as I'm writing book two of my series, I'm thinking a lot of how sacrifices and
Mhm.
how an initial sacrifice made by an individual is not only something that impacts the rest of their lives, but it impacts generational. So like when we when we really like think about the people in our lives and how we want to connect with them, I think we really have to just be who we want to be with them. And in most cases, I think they're going to respond positively because when you give people authenticity, and if you give people authenticity and they're completely like antagonistic towards it, that shows more of an issue like with them rather than you. But to just, make conscious that sacrifices do like impact generations and that until they're really until work is done, whether it be like seeking help outside of the family, maybe with a therapist or other professional, um, if you recognize there's work to be done, open up that dialogue, open up that conversation, because that's the only thing that's going to um, make anything work better into the future. Thank you for kind of touching on that and centering us on that message. Um, do you have any upcoming works also that we can maybe give a little teaser of? Or and then also maybe if you want to read one of your poems too, we'd be definitely interested in hearing.
Yeah. So I am working on kind of like a full length book. It's nonfiction. Kudos to you. I started writing a novel last year and I am not making much progress on that novel because like it's remember I'm economical with my words. So I'm like, how am I gonna write like a novel worth of stuff? But it's coming along. But the project I'm in like knee deep in research in is called How to Live a Liberated Life When the Revolution Hasn't Come Yet. And it speaks a lot to what we were just talking about, how um your vulnerability and authenticity often influences other people to be themselves. So I've been doing interviews with people on how they are currently living a liberated life or would like to live a liberated life. I'm like this. I'm at my desk right now, and this is like half of the books that I've tabbed up and will be putting notes in from just different Miriam Kaba, Let This Radicalize You, Hood Wellness by Tamala Gordon, Be a Revolution by Ijeoma Oluo. So like a lot of just like liberation focused text, just trying to like get all of the research and stuff
This is
down.
like your self-directed MFA.
Exactly what I called it to somebody the other day. So that's definitely what it is. So I fight the urge to get another degree. I do not need any more student loans. So yeah, that is what I'm currently working on. I'm super excited for that. And then as far as one of my poems, I do not have Black Madonna on my desk, but I can read a little something from my first book, Phases.
Yeah,
So like I said, Phases was really about me unlearning, hiding behind perfection, like how sensitive that I can be. Um, let's see, which one do I want to do? Um, maybe this one. Okay, this one is called More Please. There are starving children in Africa, so I must be grateful for all I have. Take all that I'm offered. Thank you. Yes, I'll take more. It's impolite to turn down an offering. It's rude to leave anything behind because you just never know when your next meal is coming. So keep eating until you're sick, until you're bursting. There's an insatiable hole you are trying to fill with all the wrong things.
beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful and
you.
it's capturing of, yeah, of society and of the very real too, dialogue between like parents and younger generations.
Mhm.
Now, with your poetry too, are you, because I noticed you have maybe some workshops listed on your website as well to
Yes, they have since been defunct, but I'm planning on doing a revamp. I'm doing a lot of like community collaborative projects, so I can't really do as much of like my workshops and things that I've been doing. For example, my friend who is a therapist and we are going to do a poetry prize for survivors of intimate partner violence and sexual assault. And I gotta check with her. I don't know if we said just South Carolina or we're opening it up, but we should be doing a call for submissions around beginning of September. So we're fundraising to try to get like money for the prizes for poets. I am working with a book club facilitator for women in prison. So we're fundraising for book club sets for her to do some book clubs with some women. No, they're in jail, the local jail, not prison. Um, so yeah, I've been doing a lot of like community collaborative work and haven't been able to do my workshops unless like people ask me to. Like this past weekend, there is one of the um, well, local as in Charleston, South Carolina's LGBTQ Resource Center, We Are Family. They hosted a retreat here in Columbia, and I did a writing workshop with them. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of local things and not a lot of stuff online, but I'm gonna get back to it soon.
hey, that works. Because, online is usually like the place people go first. Because sometimes you don't know where to go in your local communities, but you have those outlets. So wherever you're getting the connection, that is perfect. Tell me a little bit more about your novel and like the story that you're capturing. You said it's nonfiction?
So the one I was trying to work on last year is fiction. It's horror.
Ah,
And I actually was doing a write-in with our local Queer Writers of Columbia group. And this idea came to me. My grandma would always say, be careful what you wish for. And she had this thing where she would say something, usually with something negative, like, oh, I bet we're going to war or something like that. And it would come true. And so I had this idea that I actually submitted to this local art exhibit where writers submitted poetry or short prose, and a local artist was in conversation with it through a visual medium. So I submitted the thing I wrote about a generation of Black women who were cursed with the thing that they spoke into existence. So that is like the premise of the novel.
That is really cool. Really interesting. But you kind of put that aside for now and you're working on another novel?
Yeah, so the How to Live a Liberated Life is what I'm working on now, and I'm hoping to have that out beginning of 2026.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
And are you gonna self-publish that one as well?
Yes, and usually with my poetry, it's a lot easier because I write poetry all the time, and once I have enough within a theme, I publish a collection. So this will probably actually help me strengthen my muscle to get to my novel. Because I'm just like, okay, like I gotta do long form, like essays. Um, so yeah, and just bringing in all the research and interviews and things like that. So I am super excited to put more resources behind that. Like I want to get Kirkus reviews and I want to go on a book tour. And by book tour I mean like where are all my friends around the country staying so I can stay with them for free and just pop up at their local bookstore.
Well, that's good because we'll have a call with like all of the authors from this series soon. So you'll get acquainted with a few more friends, hopefully.
Yes, yes.
More author friends. And I'm excited to hopefully see one day a little bit of your fiction novel because that sounds really interesting. I'm really well, as you know, like my novel is like contemporary urban fantasy, so I love all those mystical elements that are also present in just American literature. But
Hmm.
you know,
And I was trying to explain the difference between like, because I creating a whole magic system, like fantasy writers, like my hat's off to y'all because like I can add magical elements to the real world. I can't create my own whole magic system yet. But I was trying to explain to someone the difference between magical realism and like full-blown fantasy. And I'm just like, because fantasy can be set in the real world. I don't know. I'm like fantasy light.
yeah. I'm like, my belief is like everyone out there is living in their own little fantasy. So
Hmm.
I kind of, I'm of the philosophy of, you know, you, the magic system is what you put into it.
Hmm.
And then, anything outside of it, we haven't gotten there yet.
Hmm. Right.
And that's how life works, you know? We come up with a hypothesis on how something works. We test it out. Sometimes it doesn't work like that, and then change a little bit.
Hmm.
And then, so your work also deals a lot with social change. Um, Given just the spotlight that authors have on themselves today, and the work that we have to do in also being activists and also being advocates and also being sponsors in a way of uplifting each other. Do you see that we're kind of transitioning to maybe something like local politics, bigger politics too? Because your message definitely has strong ties to what we need to see in the world.
Yeah. So Toni Morrison and James Baldwin have always inspired me about just like the role of the writer in like reflecting the times. And I definitely see like a lot of writers and authors like they've always been doing it, but the level at which they're taking it more seriously like I've seen like just this like fresh energy about like yes, like the world needs this story versus like, oh, I don't see this story and like I'm gonna write the book that I want to read. They're really taking like this mission really seriously, and I just love that. And I'm a part of the group Authors Against Book Bans, and just like the work that they're doing, like seeing people what they're doing on their individual level, because sometimes like the national level can just be so overwhelming, but the local level is really where you can see the most change. And I'm very active in both Authors Against Book Bans, but also the local Freedom to Read Coalition here in South Carolina. So like people are writing the stories that the world needs to see, but also defending the stories that the world needs to see. And I'm just loving like this energy of people really taking this mission like to heart and just putting their all into, because I started Liberation is Lit because I know the power that stories have to change the world, and it's how we as humans make sense of the world that we live in. And so nothing ever good happens when you start banning the books. So just I don't know. I just feel I get the most hope from when I see that I'm not alone in doing this work.
Yeah, and I've seen like a big kind of next step too, where, people were really getting animated about the book bans, and then but now I'm seeing them get more interested in hearing voices of people today too. So I'm like, that is showing that we're really like moving in a direction, and it's the right direction. We just got to really like fight for it.
Hmm.
And I applaud you for you doing your small part to, first of all, take the chance on self-publishing, um, building a bookstore and business dedicated to uplifting banned books, and then also in trying to change the culture around, what belongs published and not, and then helping other people get self-published. A lot of
Hmm.
times we really like learn our capabilities when we're helping others, and your story is like an example of that. Someone approached you in a store about helping them self-publish, and you took it to heart and really like ran with it, and like um that's what our goal here is to do. That's what your goal here is to do, which I'm so happy we were able to connect. I hope all of our South Carolina natives are gonna reach out to Taylor, check out her work, and then get involved with some of the groups that she's organized in. They're active, they're engaged. When people are active and engaged, like people have to listen. And even if they're not listening, there's gonna come a point where your numbers are too big for them to ignore. So I hope everyone across the country enjoys Taylor's work. Taylor, do you have any final message for maybe any of the writers out there who might be wondering about how to take that next step and get their work out there, or just need a little bit of inspiration?
I would just definitely say like the first step is believing in yourself. I don't know where I got it from, but I just had this like random surge of delusional. It happened to me. Delusion happened to me, and just grab it and believe in yourself. Like I was at a publishing symposium back in May, and one of the publishers was like, yeah, like some of the traditional publishers, like some of them won't sell like 12 books. And it's like that's the difference between a publisher just thinking I'm this is just a product to make money off of versus like an author or writer who believes in the message that they have to say. And just believe in yourself, believe in your message, because you never know who you're going to connect to through your story.
Yeah, and your story just might be the one that connects with them in the way that is going to enact that change. It to us, maybe it sounds like unbelievable, but people really like are impacted by people they don't know, by strangers, by books, by words, and it really does change people in ways that we can't even imagine.
It's happened to me. Like there's been plenty of books in my life, and you could be that for someone else.
Yeah, and even just the example of a stranger approaching you about self-publishing, like if someone in maybe in your family was like, I really want to self-publish, you might have been like, yeah, right. Like, no way you're self-publishing. Like, I don't know, write something, prove it to me, whatever. But just because we know them too well. But yeah, sometimes it takes like someone outside to really like see us as we are and just like accept us and like want our help. And then you never know where it can take you. And Taylor, I hope it takes you so far. I definitely will have you back on the channel as you get your other works out, and maybe even we can do another reading of Black Madonna too. And yeah, I'll put all your links down below with the website, your socials, so everyone can follow you. I'm going to have the article posted with the video, and then all your links and the links to buy the book, but we'll buy your books. And then yeah, is there any other place that you would like featured for people to find you?
That's basically it. You can find me on the internet streets and most likely the streets of Columbia. So,
Yeah. And if you send me over the links to the organizations you're a part of too, I can add them in the article.
yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you everyone so much for watching Four Elements Press LGBTQ Authors Series. You can find the links to the article down below. You'll also find Taylor in our LGBTQ author directory on fourelementspress.com, where all her socials will be there. We're going to link to the organization she's a part of in South Carolina. So if you're in the area, you can even join and get connected. And then if you're a self-published author, or if you're looking to self-publish or are just curious about publishing, feel free to connect to us at Four Elements Press. Taylor also is open to questions and she has services. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and take care.